Hello, friends. Today we're going to look at example number 3 of scriptures that the non-trinitarian movement teaches incorrectly. This one is John chapter 10, verse 33, which says, "The Pharisees answered him, saying, For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God." And in the same topic, John chapter 5, verse 18 says, "Therefore the Pharisees sought the more to kill him, because he not only had broken the Sabbath, but said also that God was his Father, making himself equal with God." The non-Trinitarian movement teaches that the Pharisees misunderstood Jesus. They posit that because the Pharisees were wrong about Jesus breaking the Sabbath, then it seems clear that they were also wrong about Jesus claiming to be God or equal with God. They teach that Jesus never claimed to be God and never claimed to be equal with God. Let's see if this is true or false. John 10, verse 30 says, "I and my Father are one." John 8 and verse 58 says, "Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am." So far, it is clear that Jesus taught he was equal with God the Father in power and authority and divinity. There is a submission to the Father, though. He is constantly doing the Father's will and never his own will. This is true always, not just duration Christ's life in earth as a human. Submission has nothing to do with equality, though. Did the Pharisees misunderstand Jesus? Were they wrong in thinking that Jesus was claiming to be equal with God the Father or claiming to be God? Let's add more evidence to this investigation. Jesus claimed equal rights with God in doing a work equally sacred and of the same character with that which engaged the Father in heaven. But the Pharisees were still more incensed. He had not only broken the law according to their understanding, but in calling God his own Father, he declared himself equal with God. That's in John chapter 5, verse 18, the Revised Version. "The whole nation of the Israelites called God their Father. Therefore they would not have been so enraged if Christ had represented himself as standing in the same relation to God, but they accused him of blasphemy, showing that they understood him as making this claim in the highest sense." And this statement was taken from a book called Desire of Ages, page 207. And then in page 208, it continues and says, "But they evaded the points he made concerning the Sabbath, and sought to stir up anger against him because he claimed to be equal with God. The fury of the rulers knew no bounds. They had not feared the people. The priests and rabbis would have slain Jesus on the spot." Then the next statement's from a periodical called Signs of the Times, written in November 27, 1893. And it says, "The words of Christ were full of deep meaning as he put forth the claim that he and the Father were of one substance, possessing the same attributes." The Israelites understood his meaning. There was no reason why they should misunderstand. And they took up stones to stone him. This was the Jews. Had the Pharisees misunderstood his words, he could and would have corrected their wrong impression. He could have told them that he was no blasphemer, although he had called himself the Son of God. and that his words need not necessarily mean that he had invested himself with divine prerogatives and made himself equal with the Father. But he made no such statement. The impression they had received was the very impression he desired to make. Then the next statement is back in the book Desire of Ages. This time it's in pages 469 and page 470. This says, "With solemn dignity Jesus answered, 'Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am.'" Silence fell upon the vast assembly. The name of God given to Moses to express the idea of the eternal presence had been claimed as his own by this Galilean rabbi. He had announced himself to be the self-existent one, he who had been promised to Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from the days of eternity. Micah 5:2. Again, the priests and rabbis cried out against Jesus as a blasphemer. His claim to be one with God had before stirred them to take his life, and a few months later they plainly declared, "For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because that thou, being a man, makest thyself God." John 10:33. After reading all of this, it is abundantly clear now that Jesus did claim and make the statement that he is equal with God the Father. The Jews and Pharisees did not misunderstand him. He did not correct them. How they understood him is exactly how he wanted them to understand it. So, in conclusion, Jesus did claim to be God, the I am, and equal with the Father, of one substance with the Father, the same substance, divine substance, possessing the same attributes of a divine being as the Father, and having the same power and authority as God the Father. The Jews correctly understood these claims, and that is why they tried to stone him for blasphemy multiple times. God bless you in your search for truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.